Welcome back, everyone, to Four Eyes, the podcast series that gives you a clear view into the optometry world across Canada and the US. We hope everyone had an enjoyable holiday season, even though it was probably very quiet for everyone.
All my Christmases are quiet. What are you talking about?
That's pretty lonely.
This is no different.
I feel sorry for
Yeah.
you. Mine's usually big. We have you see friends, you see family, but they'll annoy you this year, 2021. I already forgot what year it is.
I still write 2020 everywhere, all my documents.
So we are back. We're pretty excited to get started with our first episode of the year and of season 4. But before we start, I actually want to ask all of you girls here, what is a New Year's resolution that you guys made for this year and have already failed at it?
Shit, that's starting off real good, huh? You sound like my sister. What's your New Year's resolution?
Oh, God.
Mine was to actually try to meditate at least for 5 minutes every day.
Oh my God.
Maybe even 3 minutes.
Too.
But I planned it all out during Christmas break. I was like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to start just 5 minutes, 5 minutes in the morning. That's all I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I did it on January 1st. And I was like, I made it. I did it. I'm so happy.
Did you do the whole 5 minutes?
Yeah, I did the whole 5 minutes because I was like,
Nice.
I'm going to start small. I'm not going to make these big grand goals. I'm going to start small, 5 minutes of my day. It didn't matter what time of the day. I just had to get 5 minutes done. And then when work started up again for me on January 4th, it just went out the window.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't have time for this. I can't do this. And I'd literally be sitting in front of my kitchen table going, I don't have time for this for 5 minutes when I could have meditated for 5 minutes. But there was a story that I think Rav, did you post it where you were like, or was it Amara? I don't know.
It was me when I said
you?
who's over 2021
2020.
already.
I resonated so much with that I was like, it's only the first week. And I felt like the first week of January was like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And that Friday of what was the Friday of January? I don't know. The Friday of the first week, I was like, this should be January 30th right now. I'm so over this month. I don't know. I'm already burnt out. There you go.
Burnt out. That's the word for, I think, the first week of January is burnt out. I felt like that too, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's so funny because the first thing that I did the first week of January was I told myself, I was really proud and impressed of Rav learning how to do a proper headstand during quarantine. And I was like, I want to be more flexible. I just want to be able to reach to something on the ground without going, oh, my back. I want to be more healthy. And I was like, maybe I should try yoga or stretching and something, 10 minutes every day. I was an overachiever, 10 minutes.
That's overachieving for me. 10 minutes.
Yeah.
No, that's too long.
And I think on Monday I did a yoga for beginners. Yoga is hard. The poses are hard, but to be honest, I don't have the patience to slow down for yoga. They'll be like, okay, breathe. And I'm like, tell me the next move. And so I stopped, but I am doing a stretch. I'm just doing stretches now. I've already failed at yoga, but stretches, I'm still going strong.
That's still yoga.
That's still yoga though.
Yeah.
So
But yoga has the whole mind and body and earth connection. And I don't have the patience to learn that.
you're doing
So I've
your
already
own
failed.
kind of yoga.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Oh, thanks.
Amber.
Called
I feel
stretching.
better about myself. Maybe that's Deepan's goal, to be a better person and make us feel better about ourselves.
No, that'll end. By 2 weeks, I'll become a pessimist again and be like, you're all ruining your lives. Stop with your goals and ambition.
Wasn't your last year's goal gossip less? And it lasted for like
Hey,
one.
you know what? Honestly, I don't see anybody anymore. So
Yeah,
I'm always like, my gossip now is celebrity news. I'm like, ooh,
That's
who's with who or what's happening to who, what, where. But what about you guys?
Yeah.
What it like Rav and Alex? What was your resolutions that you failed at already?
I actually don't have a resolution.
Yeah.
I
Ooh,
don't.
You didn't make one this year.
I didn't. I don't make one regularly.
You and me, Rav. I
yeah,
agree. I think
don't.
because you're setting yourself up for failure is what you're
Yes.
doing.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
But I'm sure, like, when the year was ending, I'm sure something went through your mind to just in general not be like, oh, I'm going to start this, you know,
Yeah.
January 1st. But I'm sure you have a goal
yeah.
that
Well,
you wanted to start this
me
year.
and Harv, we both started the Insanity program.
Oh, yeah.
We started the first week of December,
Mm-hmm.
and then we skipped a week because of the holidays, and then this is our fourth week, and that's something we've been consistent at.
Yeah.
So we're starting our second
Oh, that's
month.
good.
Well, it's easier when you have a partner.
Oh,
like
for
if
sure.
you do it by yourself, it's so hard.
Yeah,
But that's good.
but we haven't failed yet, so
Well, we'll wait for that episode.
I know,
We'll
right?
We're just waiting for that failure, Rav. Let it come.
Alex, there has to be something.
Well, I mean, I do set like goals throughout the year, but just not for New Year's, just because I've never been a big
So
fan
cliche.
of New Year's. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and plus, like being an athlete, it's not like I could ever actually celebrate New Year's because if we'd always have practice at 6 a.m. on the 1st because they're like, they didn't want, us to do anything, which was good, but they didn't want us to like get in trouble because you're not
Yeah.
anyway.
Yeah.
So you've always had a disciplined New Year's.
I've always had discipline New Year's, yes. So I never really celebrated New Year's, but I mean, one thing that happened is now I'm a co-owner with my dad. So,
Oh, that's exciting.
yeah.
Congratulations. That's
Yeah.
Your
nice.
dad recognizes you now.
Well, I think he's just
He
glad
actually
somebody's doing
speaks
it.
directly to you now.
Yeah.
He always did. He's
that's
too
good.
nice. He's too nice.
So we can, I guess, now kick it right into gear. We're pretty excited because we're going to be, I guess, testing this first episode and seeing what the response is. We're going to be starting to share our own experiences with our own patients. Now that we've been working for at least a year and a half after graduation, we want to share clinical cases as in the perspective of a new grad. So, we don't want to be shy about the mistakes we made, what we learned, what we maybe forgot about, and our peers had to help us remember, just so that we can all kind of remember that we're all humans and we're still learning even after school. And today I'm going to be sharing a case that I had at one of my locations in Toronto. So we can kind of get right into it and we'll kind of ask questions along the way. So I had a 15-year-old male coming in for his comprehensive eye exam, and he was pretty chill guy. He didn't really have any complaints. He just kind of said, yeah, sometimes my vision's a little blurry, more in the right eye. And I've just noticed that happen over the last year. And that was pretty much it. Medical history was unremarkable other than just being overweight in general. And his pediatrician just recommends healthy diet and exercise, but nothing else, and no eye history or anything, and no medications. So he comes in with his VAs uncorrected, 20/30 in the right eye, pinholing to 20/25 only. And that's really with effort. Like I pushed him a lot to guess that 20/25 line. And then the left eye is 20/25 -1, uncorrected. Most entrance testing was normal. So pupils are normal, confrontation fields, EOMs, color, stereo, NPC, cover test, all within normal. And this is a practice where I do have techs doing the auto refraction for me. I know some people don't care about auto refraction, but this to me personally was a case where I feel like auto refraction stood out. Of course, I was doing a pretty standard routine exam on this 15-year-old. And then I'm about to start refraction. And I see that his auto refraction in the right eye is plus 1.75 with minus 2 diopters of SIL. And the left eye is minus 1 with 0.75 diopters of SIL. And I'm trying to do his refraction, and he still cannot get better than 20/25 vision in the right eye. Left eye is a sharp 20/20, you know, a typical myope. And I'm kind of sitting there thinking, what is happening with this right eye? Why is it such a high plus? Let me go back to his previous exams. And he's been here in 2018 and 2016. Both years, he was correctable to 20/20 vision in both eyes with basically like a minus 0.5 and a minus 1 in the left. So for 4 years, this kid was a minus 0.5 in the right eye, sharp 20/20. And now my auto refraction is saying plus 1.75 for sphere with minus 2 diopters of SIL. At this point, obviously kind of like a red flag came in my mind, like something doesn't feel right. I'm going to pause there and just ask you guys, what is going through your mind, or what questions would you ask at that point for, you know, based on the refraction results?
One thing that popped up to me is I look at the axis. So this one is against the rule.
Mhm.
So sometimes I know with the rule, and especially if they have a pinguicula or trigium, you can get the high astigmatism, which can throw off your refraction or your autos.
Yeah.
So I guess that's one thing that came to my head. Oh, pay attention to the cornea.
Yeah.
Or trigium or something.
I didn't even think of pterygium or pinguicula actually.
Me neither.
But you know what? Maybe because he's 15, I didn't really think of that.
But then
But-
it's with the
Yeah.
rule too. You get astigmatism with the rule, with
Yes.
the trigium. So
Yeah.
not against the rule.
But that's what I was thinking too, just because of what Amrit was saying, his age. That's why I think in my head that didn't
Mhm.
pop up.
Mhm.
Actually,
Yeah, he's too young.
honestly, the first thing that honestly came to my mind if I saw this is I would do the auto refraction myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because I would be like, just knowing myself, I'd be like, okay, I kind of start panicking a little bit, because when I see a hyperopic shift like that too, the first thing that comes to my head too is tumor.
Tumor.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, tumor or macular edema
Yeah.
in this 15-year-old. Please, God, no. So I'm
Yeah.
like, okay, let me like go do this auto refraction myself. Make sure it's actually that astigmatism is there.
Mhm.
You know, if that hyperopic shift is actually there. So that's the first thing I would do. Maybe it's not the most efficient thing, but that's honestly what I would do first,
The
just
first
because
step, yeah.
I would have to see it for myself
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
make sure it's there.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I think in my mind, when I saw that auto refraction result, I immediately went to do retinoscopy, right?
Mhm.
Again, check the auto again. Obviously, I was too lazy to get up and go back to the auto refractor.
Yeah, and that's fair, right? Like,
right?
Yeah.
So I tried to do retinoscopy, and he's pretty light sensitive and dim reflexes in the right eye. Even in the left eye, the reflex was just not as crystal clear and easy to see because he squints a lot. So at that point, I still tried to do a refraction, didn't get him better than 20/25, maybe 20/25 plus 2 on the 20/20 line.
No, I was just gonna say another thing to like keep in mind too is you don't know who did it in 2016 and 2018,
mhm.
the autos.
Yes.
And really, I personally don't put a lot of confidence in our auto. And so if I think that something looks weird, I'll ret them. And like, but it, like you said, if it was too dim or, you know,
Yeah.
different things happening, you can't really use that.
Yeah.
You can kind of base it off of it, but it's hard to get a good result from
Yeah.
that too.
The reason why I'm emphasizing auto refraction in this case already in the beginning is because, to be honest, working in a corporate setting where your techs do all of the work in the beginning, you do rely on auto-refraction before you see the patient, because you kind of set up a little bit of an expectation, right? As to, okay, I kind of know if this patient's a myope or a hyperope, maybe they're entering presbyopia. I kind of know what they might be experiencing before they sit in the chair. And to Alex's comments, the auto refractions in the past were both myopic in the right eye, but same with the refraction. So I might not have said that. The refraction itself in 2016 and 18 were minus 50 sphere in the right eye, sharp 20/20 vision. So I'll just clarify that. And so, yes, I'm thinking, okay, hyperopic shift in one eye. This patient is not seeing clearly, and he's 15, and the parents are in the room already like, what's wrong? And
That's so much pressure there too, right? You have an audience going, is everything okay? And you're like, no, it's not.
So it was his sister, his mom, and his dad all in the room.
Oh my
With
God.
me. And so this was like a couple of months ago. And so then I'm thinking, okay, reasons for a hyperopic shift. Let's start with the anterior seg. On slit lamp findings, I'm looking for corneal findings like what Rav mentioned. So I don't see any edema. I don't see any scars. I don't see any SPK when I put in sodium fluorescein. There's no cells or flare in the anterior chamber. Obviously, his lens is clear. And I'm just like, okay, what the hell do I do now? So I'm like, I have to dilate him because I need to make sure what Deepan's saying, is there any swelling in his eyes? And unfortunately, at my clinic, I don't have direct access to an OCT. So I dilate him. He has pretty small and crowded nerves in general. So his CD ratios in both eyes are roughly around 0.2 horizontal and vertical. And they're a little lumpy and bumpy. I mean, the right eye is definitely more lumpy and bumpy than the left eye. So that doesn't make it any easier for me. And because of those bumps around the optic nerve, the margins kind of look blurred. So I'm staring at this nerve like, oh God, I wish I had an OCT just right here, right now. So I can, try and identify, is this just drusen or is this some optic nerve, optic disc edema? Of course, without an OCT, you can't really confirm if the macula is flat, but he did have a positive foveal reflex. That's what I would look for, and for a shiny macula to just hope that there's no edema there. So at this point, what would you guys do next? Would you do any other additional testing in the chair, or would you just refer right away or monitor? What would you
do? You have an optos at your clinic?
Oh, yes. Sorry. I do have an optomap and fundus photos. So I did take photos of the nerves.
Sometimes the AF on the optos can help you show the drusen on the nerve.
Yeah.
It really it hyperfluoresces, so you can see the drusen a bit more distinct. I would have done that. And sometimes with the AF2, you can see if there is potential edema. I guess you can kind of see a demarcation line around the macula, just for better contrast, I guess. That would have been my next step.
Yeah, I didn't think about that. I took the photos, but I did not look at the autofluorescence.
I know you said you didn't have an OCT in your clinic. I would, if I had some sort of, if I had some sort of relationship with another clinic that had an OCT, I would definitely send the patient there to do that. But honestly, if not, there's nothing like that. If there's no relationship like that exists, then I would honestly send the patient to a neurologist, because if you were seeing like those blurred margins for the optic nerve, that would make me nervous, plus the hyperopic shift, and it would just
plus the history of being obese. I think that also made me a little bit more nervous, because this is a very tall and big 15-year-old. I mean, he was almost 6 feet tall and very big. So it made me quite nervous, because I said, in a pediatric patient who's overweight and who is very gradually, slowly, potentially losing vision in that eye, I don't want this directly in my hands anymore. And obviously the parents, parents always want second opinions, and they want that reassurance that we're sending him to a specialist, right? Because if I didn't send him to a specialist, they would have taken him to a hospital or another doctor and been like, one doctor said this, I need you to tell me what's happening with my child.
Yeah.
And so I did refer to neuro-ophthalmology for further evaluation with an OCT, a visual field, if they deemed that was necessary, based on the optic nerve findings. And then, of course, if deemed necessary by them, if there is swelling, to get, neuroimaging done to find out what is this, if there is swelling, where is it coming from and why?
I have a question. So when you referred the patient to the neuro-ophthalmologist, how quickly were they going to be seen?
Oh, yeah, that was a headache, actually. And this was very early when I started working in Ontario. So I think this patient was actually my first referral I made to an OMD. So initially, when I requested a referral, they scheduled him to be seen within, I think it was like 2 months out. And then I had to call the patient back and ask the patient over the phone, about headaches and neurological symptoms, because I did not think about asking those questions in the moment at the exam. And then, of course, when you ask patients these questions, then they start to answer positively. They're not sure. So they lean towards the side of yes.
Yeah.
So, I did ask certain questions. Do you experience any headaches? Do they occur more so in the morning upon wakening or more towards the evening? And so he said that he does get headaches, dizziness, and nausea at school during the day, sometimes more so in the morning. It's gradually gotten worse over the past couple of months. But he denied any history of infection, any history of flu, cold, fevers, no orbital pain, no dimming or shadows in his vision or anything else. I did call the ophthalmology office and I told them that. And then I said, if he's experiencing headaches and I want to rule out papilledema, I would like him to be seen earlier. How early can your ophthalmologist see him? The receptionist was like, okay, he has headaches. All right, we're going to push it way up and we're going to get him seen within like 2 weeks.
If I heard that the referral was going to be 2 months out, I think I would just send the patient to the ER, especially if there was headaches. And then if I thought there was papilledema, I'd be like, oh, because I feel like there's a lot of uncertainty when these kind of cases come up, and it makes it personally for me, it gives me so much anxiety because I don't know what's going to happen for my patient. And I'm just like kind of calling different ophthalmologists, talking to different techs, nurses, whatever.
Yeah.
And even though I know it will be okay, you're just trying to do the best for your patient in that moment. Yeah. And you just feel like you're failing and you're just like, no one is helping me. Please see my patient now before everybody else. Like, so that's how I feel every time I go through this. And it's a very nerve-wracking experience for me. Anyways.
Here's one reason why I didn't feel like it had to be urgent, as in, same day or next day type of a referral, because he kind of said that this vision loss has slowly been happening over the last couple of months, maybe a year.
Yeah.
And he even said, to be honest, it doesn't bug me. Like I didn't really notice.
Yeah.
And at that point I said, if there's a tumor there, it's taking its time.
Yeah.
It's taking its time, and he's still functional, he doesn't have any other neurological symptoms except maybe a headache that was positively answered, most likely because I asked the question.
Yeah.
So it's like when you ask about scalp tenderness and they're like, what is that? And you're like, when your scalp hurts, and they're like, yeah. Sometimes, and you're like, shit, why did I even ask you? Because now we got to go through all the motions.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was going to be seen within 2 weeks. I got his paperwork back after 3 weeks or so. He saw a neuro-ophthalmologist who said, We checked him out and they just said he has small crowded discs. And the ophthalmologist was able to refract him in the right eye with minus 0.25 sphere 20/20 vision. And then the left eye was the same, minus 1 sphere 20/20 vision. And the ophthalmologist made a note and said, patient's fine, patient's healthy, advised him to return back to Dr. Bilku for updated refraction. So basically, don't waste my time, give him his damn glasses and leave me alone. And this was my first ever referral, okay, as a grad. And it's so nerve-wracking to get a referral back from a big, ophthalmologist who's basically making you feel like everything that you panicked about was for no reason.
Mm-hmm.
And I looked at that refraction in my room, exam room, with the door shut by myself, and out loud, I was like, there's no way. There's no way he's minus a quarter 20/20 vision. No freaking way. I don't believe it. And I'm not going to settle for that. I called the patient back and I said, hey, book your appointment. Let's do a follow-up. I have the ophthalmologist report. So let's talk about it together with him and his parents. So then anyways, the patient comes back. Let's do your refraction. According to the, ophthalmologist, you're pretty healthy and normal, which is good. Your optic nerves are normal. Let's try to get your refraction and get you some glasses if needed. Obviously, his uncorrected VAs coming in my chair again is 20/30 in the right eye, 20/20 in the left eye. My text did auto refraction. The right eye is plus 2.25 minus 3 diopters of SIL. And then the left eye again is like a minus 1, myope. So again, even though we don't always rely on auto refraction, that is still saying something. If you're repeating auto refraction and it's still also that hyperopic shift.
Hyperopic shift and a shift in astigmatism too, which we keep on forgetting to mention.
Yeah. Yes. His astigmatism was definitely changing too. And to be honest, Deepan, I didn't even pay attention to that.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say too. Just because of that hyperopic shift, that would cloud my judgment on a lot of things because of the tumor thing hanging over my head. Like, this kid has a tumor, figure it out. So I agree. Like, I confess that to you, the astigmatism, because that's a pretty big change in astigmatism too. And we all learn in school when that happens, the first thing you think about is, keratoconus, right?
Yes. Yeah.
But
or some corneal issue.
Or some corneal issue, right? Mm-hmm. But for sure, the hyperopic shift would have taken over.
Struggling.
Did you try the ophthalmologist or refraction?
Are you serious? Minus a quarter? Oh, I was like, I think that ophthalmologist just really pushed him to guess. And he got 20/20 because I pushed him to guess and he could only get 20/25.
During one of my rotations when I worked in an OD/MD clinic or hospital, none of the ophthalmologists did the refractions. It was all techs.
That's going to say too. What if it's a tech that did the refraction? It was
all techs and they did the refraction. They literally just change the dials on the side. They don't really check astigmatism. And then they take a quick VA and they're like, yep, that's what it is. And they really, really, really go off of autorefraction. Like whatever autorefraction is, they're like, yeah, that should be close enough. Even a refraction from an MD or an ophthalmologist office, I'm kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah. So at this point, I'm sitting there again, pretty frustrated because not only am I not figuring out why this patient can't see well, but again, of course, his parents are sitting there, really worried. His refraction is not working out well. And I'm like, you know what? Let me try retinoscopy again. And I finally get him to just open his eyes really wide. And you just see scissor cuts all over the place.
Hammer's eyes.
I know. I was like, I was so happy. I was so happy he had scissor reflexes because I was like, okay, I'm going to look at your cornea one more time. I tried to pay attention to his K readings from the autorefractor, but the K readings were showing less astigmatism than his refractive astigmatism. So at that point, I was like, I don't know if this is keratoconic related, but let me check your cornea again. I stained his cornea again. He has 2+ linear SPK within his visual axis in the right eye and a little bit in the left. And then I kind of sat there and I stared at him and I'm like, do you rub your eyes a lot? And his dad just opens his eyes. He's like, oh my God, he's always rubbing his eyes a lot. Like throughout the entire day, for years, he's been rubbing his eyes. And at that point, I said, all right, we are going to send you to a corneal specialist now because I have a good hunch that this could be early signs of keratoconus. I didn't really think of keratoconus with patients with a large hyperopic shift, but like Deepan mentioned, all that astigmatism can't just be coming from nowhere. And the front of his cornea to my naked eye looks good, but I don't have a topographer in my office and you can't really diagnose keratoconus without that. I felt like I just wanted to like smack myself on the head. Like, oh my God, I can't believe you never thought of that the first time. So I did refer him to a corneal specialist who took him in, I think about a month later, because at this point it's not an urgent referral.
Yeah.
So you have to wait a bit. And she sent the report back and her pentacam scans revealed early keratoconus in the right eye with inferior steepening with thinning and rise in a posterior float in the right eye. And the left eye looked relatively normal. She discussed cross-linking with him and is going to refer him immediately for cross-linking and potentially some PRK with that as soon as possible. So yeah, I felt really proud of myself when I got that back. But yeah, that was one of my first early interesting cases where I just totally felt like a newbie and was like, what am I doing in life? Why? Like I'm here all by myself with limited resources in my clinic. And it's so hard to pinpoint what referrals you need to make without sending the patient on like the scavenger hunt across the city, trying to like figure out what their diagnosis is.
Sometimes you think it's easy referring a patient out, but finding the correct ophthalmologist is more of a difficult task than you think. Like sometimes I have a patient, I'm like, okay, who do I send it to? And then unfortunately, like, I don't know, I have a very hard time, even when I go online and I read the ophthalmologists, what they offer, what their specialties are. It's very generic, like, oh, glaucoma, strabismus, or like refractive surgery. I'm like, okay, like it's very hard to find, first of all, neuro-ophthalmologist.
And oculoplastic surgeons too.
And oculoplastics. Even ophthalmologists that specialize in peds.
Yes.
Very hard to find. Like or the waiting period is just so long, and you're like, it's these kids, man. They need to see somebody right away.
Rap, do it for the kids. Come on.
Especially a young kid. I'm like, yo, please get in. Please get in. I don't want you to be waiting like months to see somebody. And
I think with this case, I think the turning point was for me was when you got the report back from the neuro-ophthalmologist and then deciding what you did. I think a lot of ODs would be like, okay, well, if the ophthalmologist says he's okay, I guess he's okay. I know for me, when I get those reports back, a lot of the times I'm like, okay, whatever they say is truly what's going on. And, you know, they know better than me. And they use all their like medical terminology that I always forget about when I was in school. And I'm like, oh, gotta look this up. What are these acronyms and everything? So it's like, you really do believe what the ophthalmologist says. And you're like, okay, I guess we're going to do whatever they say. But that's really good that you fought and like for your patient and was like, no, there's something wrong. Like there's something going on here. I need to figure it out. So I think that's the rare action that a lot of ODs would take and be like, okay, well, we'll just send this kid on his way. And, you know, and it could have been possible that he would have had an eye exam 5 years later. And obviously his vision would be changing so much, but he would just rely on his left eye to see. And
Yep.
then 5 years later, they'd be like, yeah, we can't really do
Can't do
anything. You're going
anything.
to get some specialty contact lenses to kind of help you and
call
maybe
it a
go
day.
from there. Yeah. You were his advocate, Amrit, even though he didn't care. He was like, I'm good.
Yeah.
You're like, no, you're not. We got to figure this out.
Yeah.
You know,
You'll
that's
thank me later.
that's the thing that I hope we don't lose, because I know
Mhm.
with new grad ODs, we have a lot of care in us right now. And I hope it stays that way. Because
Yeah.
I know once you get closer to retirement and all of your patients start to feel the same, it gets really hard to go above and beyond. So I'm really
Yeah.
proud of myself that I went above and beyond for that person. Like I even called their parents to see how he's doing. And I think they just they felt better that they knew a doctor was checking up on him. And
So
yeah.
this is all the motions that optometrists can go through, where it can be very mentally draining for them to like kind of deal with a patient like this. Like if you had a patient like this and then you had 20 more people to see after that, you're going to be mentally drained. And then if you have 5 more in the day that are like this, it is not easy to constantly go above and beyond for your patients, because, you know, that's not an easy way to practice for sure. And I think that's why a lot of us feel burnt out, especially new grads. And they're like, you know what? I'm just going to choose the easy way out and not really care. And then just like go and see my patients and go home.
Exactly.
Any other last comments from my unique case? No further questions then.
But for those of you guys who have any questions or comments about what Amrit could have done differently, or if we should have thought about something differently, share it, because we would like to hear your guys' thoughts so we can all learn from each other.
Yes. I really like the idea that we're sharing this, because I do want it to emphasize that we're human, we make mistakes. Sometimes we feel stupid. We don't always have to be the best of the best. And we just have to use each other to learn and remind ourselves of other diseases that we might not see every day, because someone else has seen it. So someone else might have a different idea than what you're thinking. So yeah, what Deepan said, share this case on your stories, DM us on Instagram. Leave a comment on the actual episode if you'd like to share any other pointers, so that we can learn more.
And tell us if you enjoyed this episode, because we're planning to do more. So yeah, let us know.
We have a lot of
Give
cases.
us a like so we know if you guys like it.
A lot of cases to share.
Oh yeah.
A lot of mistakes to share too. So.
Thanks everyone for listening to 4 Eyes. Make sure to subscribe and check us out on Instagram at 4 Eyes Optom for more eye-related content. Look out for new episodes every Wednesday. Until then, stay tuned.